that's running. I think it's someone on the phone.
Yeah, it's Ves is talking on the phone is what it is. Ves is because he's lighting up my screen. There you go.
Okay, got it.
All right, are we good?
I think so. I'm muting the other people on the phone right now.
Okay. So I want to congratulate everyone that's running for the board, and thank you for putting your name in the hat. So good luck to everyone, and ILLBA will benefit no matter what the final results are. So at this time, we'll go ahead and we'll have Brian Sheely introduce our next two speakers.
Thank you to our speakers who agreed to join us today. We appreciate your support for vendor members as we offer these education and information sessions to you. Our first speaker is going to be Michael McDaniels. Michael started with Shriver Transportation Insurance in 2003. He works with customers of all sizes nationwide to find insurance solutions tailored to their specific customer needs. Shriver Transportation Insurance Agency was established in 1963 and specializes in public auto insurance, working with virtually all the insurance carriers and luxury ground transportation industry. Following Michael will be Brian Ludlow, Executive Vice President of Alternative Claims Management. He is the former president of Pinnacle Insurance and has an extensive background in the insurance industry. His firm works with ambulance, transportation, municipalities, and other fleets on downtime recovery, specifically in recovering loss of revenue for commercial vehicles damaged by a third party. His program has recovered millions in losses of revenue for industry. As Tracy said earlier, Tracy and Paul will be monitoring the chat box. If you have any questions, please put them there.
All right, so it's all yours, Michael.
All right, thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Brian. So one of the biggest issues in our industry, whether it's COVID time or not, over the last several years has been insurance. And I'm not going to come here today and reinvent the wheel because it's nothing to be reinvented. I just want to try to give you some broad tips that maybe you're not utilizing, or your current relationship with your current broker is not exploring all the options for you. And so whether you have one car in Chicago or a mixed fleet of 50 vehicles in Nebraska, all the practice is the same. The carriers want the same information whether you have one car or 100 cars. And what I want to do today is be able to give you a good feel of the timeline of when you should be starting this. And yes, you can shop your insurance. I know sometimes you call people and they say, well, I'm already working with someone. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But you can shop your insurance with multiple brokers. And I'll get into that as well in a little bit here. But from a timeline, I think it's very important to start your process between 190 days prior to your expiration date. You're probably thinking, that's over 3 months. I know. But we're going to run into hiccups, especially now during COVID, with insurance companies as well being short-staffed. They've cut their staff back. A lot of people are working in different areas, so that collaborative going from office to office is not there. So items you always want to keep track of. And I recommend this for pretty much most operators. If you have one or two cars, maybe not. But once you get 10 or more vehicles, we suggest getting loss runs at least on a quarterly basis. You'll want to have those to monitor your claims. And it's also sometimes when you call your broker to get loss runs, they start panicking and think you're just wanting to shop it. No, you are taking initiative in your own business to make sure that what's on those loss runs is accurate. I just had a claim with a customer in California who does not leave the state of California, and they had a claim in there from New Hampshire. We found that, we got it resolved. So things do show up on claims, they're not yours. For a small example, let's just say Tracy with Windy City Limousine. There could be a Windy City Limousine LLC and a Windy City Limousine Inc., and it could potentially get crossed over from one insured to the other. So step one would be monitoring your loss runs at least on a quarterly basis. 2, I suggest you update your fleet list now, especially with the different COVID type scenarios, depending on the different companies that you're insured with are, as each carrier has done slightly different COVID plans with suspension of vehicles. Some are charging premium for 25% of the layups. Some don't charge a thing. On some vehicles, you can have comp, not collision. So I think it's very important to, at least on a monthly basis, there, speak to your broker or be in contact when to make sure everyone's on the same page with what you have in your fleet and what is properly insured. I know there's going to be times where you don't have your limo 2 insured and you need it, and you could come into an issue. I would suggest at least have your broker's cell phone or email. You should have his email, but have a cell phone as well, just in case you do have a late night run on a Friday night or a Saturday, so they can get that active for you. Drivers are a huge component for small fleet operators. If you've got a one to 5 cars, there's not a whole lot of underwriting that goes into it. Now, yes, we ask you for a lot of information.
Michael Fitzik, ASAP.
I'm sorry.
Join the meeting.
I'm sorry.
It was just somebody that was joining the meeting.
Oh, sorry about that. So you want to make sure that you're updating your drivers. I know right now, if you have CDL drivers in some states, you may have gotten a leeway on getting their medical updated, but you know, on the MVR, it's going to show their medical is not current. We just need to get that letter from the state that they've got the extension to get those things done. So on those small fleets, your drivers are your number one issue with getting your best rates possible. You want to try to have drivers, and I know it's difficult right now, especially all times for drivers, but if you can find a driver between 30 and 65, that's what the insurance companies would call the sweet zone. Now, there's no insurance company that's going to tell you you can't really hire a driver who's 80, but I can tell you none of them like these more aged drivers. There's lots of reasons for that some are probably valid, some are not. But each, you got to keep in mind, these insurance companies are putting out, in some cases, up to $5 million for each and every claim. And they want to make sure that drivers are as fit and as sound as possible. So that's kind of some for the 1 to 5 unit operators. But I do suggest you definitely have that conversation with your broker 90 to 100 days out. And there might be a case where there's a new insurance company that I don't represent or your current broker doesn't represent. So it's nice to kind of get a market feel and why, like if I insure Paula, for example, and we've had some conversations that I'll say, Paula, here's where I want to go with your insurance needs this year. Here's why I want to go there. And here's why I don't want to go to companies D, E, and F. And it's a good conversation. So that way, when she gets a phone call from another broker who wants to quote her, she could say, sure, you can give me a quote, but please don't go to companies A, B, and C. Please give me a quote from options D, E, and F. And, you know, right now, insurance companies are being more select in who they're writing because they have taken a dramatic cutback in their premiums that they're collecting. And like Chicago, for example, is it's just a tough market, COVID or not. And we've had 3 insurance companies in the last 2-ish months who have pulled out. Northland is exiting the marketplace. Echelon Property and Casualty is no longer writing new insurance. Protective announced they were leaving the marketplace. Then it came back, I think, last week and said they would take submissions through 12/30. So that it is an ever-changing marketplace, and it's nice to have a broker who specializes in this field. I've talked to several people who are insured with a local friend of theirs. There's nothing wrong with that. However, when something, you know, if that current hometown friend of yours can only sell you State Farm, for example, well, there's a dozen other companies out there besides State Farm. And if State Farm decides to leave the marketplace, what are you going to do? There are different filing restrictions or regulations depending where you're operating at. If you're in Minnesota, you might have to get a special Form E or Form S. Wisconsin, Form E, Form S. So you want to make sure that your broker knows all the filings that are required of you. Do they know, does the insurance company, can they issue a hold harmless agreement? Can they issue a waiver of subrogation? Now, there's some people, they might not have ever run into that, but some companies won't issue those forms and documents when they're required. That could be the issue of you losing a contract if you can't provide that documentation. I definitely think that with everyone trying to save money, I'm not saying pitch pennies, but I'm saying save money here. I think it behooves everyone to shop their insurance now. You might find out that you've been with company A for the last 9 years. That's fantastic. But right now, company B might be able to save you some money or have a better COVID plan that'll help you stay in business for next year and the year after. I've always been an advocate of trying to solidify that relationship between the carrier and the customer. I still believe in that. However, I think these times we're in, you can't leave any stone unturned. If you can save $10 here, you got to save it, because Lord knows the money's leaving out other pockets for you. Insurance is probably one of your least favorite products to buy. You don't want to use the service. It's a necessary requirement to operate in your jurisdiction. It's likely one of your top 4 expenses behind, you have your labor, insurance, your fuel, and your equipment cost. Insurance is hopefully one of the areas where you can save some money. I mean, fuel, we can't change prices on fuel. Now you are probably using it less, but overall insurance is where you can make some headway. So I would definitely say that shopping early, getting multiple quotes, it can be from the same broker, or you can shop the insurance. And I think shopping is a very wise business decision to do. Now, there may be some times where if you have a mixed fleet of school buses, some stretch limousines, a trolley, the market for you out there is not large, because some insurance companies don't like trolleys. Some don't want to write vehicles over 35 passengers. So that's when you have the conversation for your direct needs with your current broker. But they should know the marketplace, what's happening, what are potential downfalls to going with company A versus company B. Is the insurance company being downgraded? As I mentioned, Echelon is leaving. They were downgraded twice. So you want to make sure you're with a good insurance company. And for some people out there, if you have contracts or you're a larger operator, you definitely want to be with an A-rated insurance company, because if you have contracts, I bet if we look in that contract, you're required to carry an A- or better insurance company to have that contract to operate for, let's say, the NFL or the NBA or the circus is coming to town, or whoever it might be. So make sure that you know what you do, so you can communicate that to your broker and the carrier when they ask these questions. We don't ask questions just to take your time. Every question that gets asked has a reason. I know some of them seem like they're silly, but there is a reason for these questions. Now, again, I'm not saying this is a fit for everyone, but basically there's going to be a lot of questions that do get asked. And I just want you guys to know that we ask these questions for a specific reason. One of the bigger things that's happening right now, and I know a lot of these people on this meeting are just limousine only, but for those of you that have motor coaches, one of the biggest bugaboos right now is getting the overnight driving. So people doing the nighttime trips to, let's say, from Chicago to DC. Now, likely that's probably slowed down right now because restrictions, but there are carriers who don't like these overnight trips, whether you go from Chicago to Peoria or wherever it's at, unless it's a fixed route. It's just not safe for these drivers to be, working 10 to 7 on Monday and Tuesday, then, 11 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock at night. Your body needs the proper time to rest and relax. It's just not healthy to alternate between those type of driving zones. Again, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I just think that everyone needs to communicate with their broker. And I like to say, treat your broker like your lawyer. You can tell us anything, and we will help you, decipher that in a maybe more palatable way for the insurance companies. I mean, you might just be kind of blunt about what you say, and then we can, clean that up and express that in a different manner to the insurance companies when they come back with the questions. So I cannot advocate enough to shop your insurance, start early, keep good records, and you need to know what you guys do. If you think special, whether it's safety related, we're not mind readers. So please, if you guys feel like you have something special in your safety department or your driver recognition program, let us know that. These things, you're not going to see a line item that says Tracy gets a 1% discount. That all gets factored into the pool there, and everything that you can show us that you're doing from a safety standpoint or going above and beyond, it is beneficial. And I know that on the motor coach side right now, one of the big issues is cameras. I know there's some issues, I don't say issues, but there's a lot of limousine operators who don't like the cameras. They feel it's a privacy issue, if you will, I guess, depending who you're transporting. But insurance companies love the use of advanced technology, and it is there to benefit you. And I think even the next presenter here might have some say in that, the camera system as well, to help with some claims down the road. And when you do have claims, it's not a bad thing, but you have to report your claims in a timely manner. I can answer any questions if you have any right now, or I'll be around after the fact in case you want to ask a separate question in an email or privately, let me know. I can be reached at michael@shriverinsurance.com, and I'll put that in the chat box as well. So Paula, do you want to have any questions right now or wait till the end?
No, we'll take them. But I have one for you. Can you stop a minute? And because a lot of folks probably don't understand AM Best and the rating system, can you explain why it's, you and I both know why it's important to go with an A-rated company, but I come from health, but a lot of people may not know. Can you give a little bit of an explanation of that?
Sure. So good question, Paula. So the insurance companies get rated by a firm called AM Best. And there's a series of litmus tests that get involved in this. And part of it includes your policyholder surplus, your underwriting profit, underwriting losses, how much written premium you have, the territories you're writing in. And as you write more premiums and you have better losses and you have surplus, you get, it's also an ability of what the AM Best feels the insurance company's ability to pay out claims is. And so you can go from an A++, which in our field, there's not many of those out there. But for example, an A++ carrier would be someone like a National Indemnity or a Berkshire Hathaway. Great companies, but in a lot of times, they're a good fit for certain people. But in certain territories, it's like a last ditch effort to go with a National Indemnity or a Berkshire Hathaway because they're, I would say, a high risk carrier. Meaning they'll write someone new or they'll write someone who's had some claims. But they can also be very competitive in certain geographical areas as well. So Chicago, for example, is a tough market no matter what time it is. So we actually have several carriers with National Indemnity and Berkshire Hathaway. But what you want to look for is someone who has an A-rated insurance rating. So there's A++, A+, A, and A-, and you go to B++, so on and so forth. So I presume most of you guys have your own insurance brokers out there, just like them, and just like you guys. We also carry our own insurance policy for an errors and omissions policy. So my errors and omissions policy would not even allow me to place a customer with someone who's a C rated or a B+ or worse at the time of writing the policy. So we do have a handful of customers who have a B+ or B++ rating. But for the most part, that A rating is a badge of honor, if you will, to people who get contracts with. And it does show that the insurance company should be solvent, will be around for a while, because once you get downgraded, your next step is you become insolvent. And then there's no guarantee that if the carrier becomes insolvent, that the state guarantee fund can even pay those claims.
And that's what we're seeing right now with Atlas because of American Service. I mean, we're already starting to get letters because we were a previous customer.
Right.
There's some question about the ability for them to pay claims.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then that's another thing is that depending what state you're in, you might think you have no claims. And then 23 months from now, you get it with a $300,000 lawsuit from a ding in someone's car that they went to the hospital and had, 3 neck surgeries. So it's important that you let your chauffeurs know that, hey, if you had any incident whatsoever, whether you hit a fire hydrant or you think you may have hit a car, make a note of this, try to get some information so there's notes in case something does pop up down the road. And you can always let your insurance carrier or broker know, hey, we had an incident, it's a report only. And if you ever have a person in the car, you should let us know anything that happens because you don't want those BI claims to come back and those can grow quite large.
Yeah. I think the other point to touch on is for those of you who operate in Chicago, when you work with agents that are not familiar with Chicago or the state limits, a lot of times your certificates are wrong and they don't understand the paperwork. So if you ever do choose to work with someone, make sure that they understand what the certificate limits are supposed to be so that you're not wasting a lot of time going downtown and having issues and having to have someone fax papers, and this happens a lot.
Paula, can you give an example? What do you mean the certificates are wrong? Are you talking about the liability limits?
No, it's the notification to the city or state of
10 days,
cancellation.
yeah.
They shorten it to 10 days. Is my right?
I believe Secretary of State or Business Consumer Affairs?
Consumer Affairs is 10 days, I think.
10 days.
Yeah. So if you walk in with a certificate that says 30 days, they immediately stop the presses and it just slows you down. So make sure that you, especially if you're working in the city, that you know what that should be. And then the state, I think is, I forget what the state is actually. Is it 20, 30?
The state is, I believe it's 30 days.
I think it's 30.
Yeah. So,
Another thing on those certificates for the state and consumer affairs, you have to include the uninsured motorist limit as well.
yes.
So a lot of times those get rejected, or someone will call me, they had to go back and look, I made the mistake a handful of times myself. You know, you get rushed and you forget to add that. But that is something that's important to know, that you can save someone some time by knowing how to do these things.
Yeah.
Because trips to the DMV are not pleasant.
That way.
Not pleasant. And here you have to do pay a $50 fine to make it up again.
25 to reschedule.
25 reschedule.
Yeah. Hopefully they're going to waive that this time. Because
And one more thing, just to piggyback off Paula, I'm sorry, I know I said it was gonna be done, but the $350,000 limit, that's the minimum requirement, okay? But it doesn't mean that that's the amount that you should carry, and especially based on what you guys are doing with your own operations. So this is kind of I don't know if we're gonna go over this today or some other time, but there's an intrastate operator as well as an interstate operator. And there's a big difference between those two type of policies and what the requirements are. If you have an 8-passenger stretch limousine and you just stay in Peoria, Illinois, you could carry $350,000 of coverage and be well within your rights to do that. You're fully in the scope of the law of what's required. However, if you're going to be going to an airport, that is when you start actually operating into interstate commerce, because you're picking up a passenger who came from, in all likelihood, a different state. I don't think maybe he'll fly from Rockford to Chicago, but maybe it's possible. But if you're picking up a passenger at O'Hare or Midway, they probably came from Ohio or Kansas or Las Vegas. That is interstate commerce. And I know people have said, well, no one's monitoring it and no one cares. Well, no one cares until it happens to you and you have a claim and everything is denied. The cost difference to actually be properly insured is not it's nothing compared to what happens when you are not properly insured. So, you have to be honest with your brokers about the information and questions they're asking you. I have customers who do carry 350, but to my knowledge, and they've said they don't go to these places, they don't operate interstate commerce. In that case, I actually have people sign a form that says I've been offered higher limits. I do not go to the airport, and I haven't signed this to CYA, because although I don't think I could be sued for this or brought in a lawsuit, I'm a professional and I'm supposed to know what is needed for the insured. And I don't want that to fall on my errors and omissions.
And I believe if you do airport and you're classified as interstate travel, then the minimum is 1.5 million.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
I think, we touch on it often. And I'll be quite candid. I've heard from other agents who say, well, yeah, it is 1.5, but no one's enforcing it. And I've actually regrettably have heard it from other agents. And it's disappointing because it's a catch-22. As an operator myself, I'm only going to farm to those who carry 1.5 because most of the trips we farm out are going to be interstate. And oftentimes the feedback is, I don't need it. It costs too much. I can't afford it. It's not necessary. This is just something you're doing. And the truth of the matter is, it's not something that we're making up. It is a real life issue. If you are doing a trip for Chicago Coachworks and I farm it to you, and Michael, correct me if I get it wrong, but I think I've asked you this so many times.
Okay.
If you have an accident and you only carry 350 on your auto liability and that accident exceeds that, the next place they're going to come is to as the person who executed the trip, to our policy, which means that you're putting now the additional liability that's not covered by the person who carried 350 is going to be absorbed by Chicago Coachworks. And that puts
So the company that took the booking.
absolutely.
Correct.
And that's a huge, it may not be concern to the person who's taking the order, but it's a real life probability. We have a local lawsuit right now going on for an accident that happened last year, I think, in Elgin. So, I mean, and they're going after everyone, even the people who are out of business. And the worst part of it is that if it hits our insurance, we probably will have a difficult time or almost impossible time to get insured again after we pay the claim.
That's, you're spot on. And the insurance after the fact would be difficult. I mean, it's difficult as it is right now. I
Yeah.
mean, this is the worst I've ever seen it. And it's not pleasant to come to work a lot of days here and deliver a lot of bad news. But we try to be as transparent and upfront as soon as we can. No one likes bad news, but I think it has to be delivered in a timely manner. I've told some people early on, hey, you're looking at a 30% increase, like with 45 days to go, gives them time to shop it. And, that still might be the best option for these people.
So Michael, you had mentioned that Northland is no longer available. Echelon is not taking any new customers. So within the Chicagoland area, that's only leaving us with Protective, Philadelphia, and National Indemnity?
Not entirely true. So Protective only is going through 12/30, but Protective is now written through what's called an MGA. And that means that Protective, the insurance carrier, has given their program to another party to manage that program. So the MGA is called 5-Star Specialty Programs. They do have a new market coming on for 1/1, but I don't know exactly what their entire appetite is right now. Philadelphia is a fantastic fit, but there are a few obstacles there. You have to have 5 vehicles. So, if you have 1 to 4 vehicles, not going to be a fit for you. National Indemnity is a fit. Berkshire Hathaway is a fit. Lancer does look at these. I just put one through Lancer's rating last night. They're probably not going to write it, but they're looking at these things. They feel they have to get a certain price for this territory. And quite honestly, maybe they get those prices this year because every company has their guidelines and their models, and their model says we need X plus 2. And
So is Lancer starting to look at our area or starting to look at Cook County?
Look, they are looking. I mean, look, I've learned a couple of things. And in the past, I would say, oh, I know that company X doesn't like trolleys, so I wouldn't go there. Well, you get burned once by that. Our job is to send it there and let them make the decision. I should not be pre-underwriting any risks. So we do send stuff to there. And like I said, I just rated one up last night with them. I don't have the quote back yet, but it's all online from the limousine portal. If you have some size too, and size, I would say at least 10 vehicles right now. If you have 10 vehicles, you still have Philadelphia, you have Lancers, you have National Estates. I've seen Falls Lake in here on a couple of accounts in the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
RLI does not like Cook County.
Who does not?
RLI.
Oh,
They're a fantastic insurance company. Actually, they're based out of Illinois, but the transportation department's in Atlanta, Georgia. They actually have one of the best, they probably do have the best COVID program right now. So, they're going to come out smelling like roses, I think, because they've done a great job of, I would say, going the extra mile.
What do you mean by a COVID program?
So, okay, good question, Tracy. So, I can't speak for everyone's exact program because I don't know about what one company does, but some insurance companies are charging 25 or 30% on vehicles that you're not operating. So if you got a fleet of 10 vehicles and you're operating 1, the insurance companies in some cases are still charging you 30% of that liability rate on those 9 vehicles. RLI, what they're doing is, in everyone's case, doesn't matter if you have 1 vehicle or 72 vehicles, you have to keep 1 vehicle insured for liability because it's a contract. If you don't make liability, there's no insurable interest, there's no policy. So RLI has really done a fantastic job. I will say though, on the limousine side, they do want 10 limousines. So, if you have 6, probably not gonna be a fit. If you have 8, not gonna be a fit. They do want a hard 10 limos in this area. Again, if you're in Nebraska, it might be different, but this today is more geared towards the Chicagoland operators. If if you have a specific question, please let me know. You'd also have a company like Carolina Casualty. I don't represent them, so I don't know what they're doing per se right now. I don't think they're a fan of Cook County, but we have seen them on a few accounts in the territory. They also do require 10 units at my last I heard. There's a few, what I would say, very, very high risk insurance companies that if you have to go there, it's probably not going to be a fit anyway. Probably going to put you out of business. We have another program with Scottsdale that is pretty competitive, but they don't write anything more than 20 vehicles. So they want someone who's less than 20 vehicles. So if you have 1 to 20, they're a great fit. However, their current guidelines for the COVID are not as good. So if you were a new customer, they're not going to offer any COVID credits. But if you were renewing with them and you had 6 of your 7 vehicles on COVID, you could still keep 6 vehicles suspended. But if you wanted to add a vehicle, you could not, once you add it back on, you can't take it back off.
Okay. We have a question from Dan Baxter. Insurance went up almost 20% last year. What are the expected increases for buses, trolleys for this coming year? I had 6 with Philadelphia, sold 2 and deleted. Will they renew me with 4?
I believe they will renew you with 4 since you're a current customer. And the one thing I do want to kind of make one comment on is a lot of people like to say 20% increase. I'm guilty myself, but 20% sounds like a lot in some cases. But if we took a poll of everyone on here, remember somebody paying $1,000 for limo, and someone might be paying $10,000 a limo. So that guy paying $1,000 limo, getting a 20% increase would still be paying $1,200. So I know the rates are going up overall. If you held a gun to my head, I would say if I would budget 10% increase is what I would budget, because my own personal book here, I've seen some slight reductions. I've seen quite a few flat renewals, means the rates are the same. I probably had 25% go up between 5 and 8%. Then you have a few outliers just because of some bad claims or what have you, or they perform overnight trips. So I would budget 10%. And if you want to get, extra conservative, I would budget 15% of what you were paying this year. Now that's a kind of a loaded question. It depends how many vehicles you're operating. If you're budgeting this based off of insuring 1 of 7, and in your mind, your insurance cost is only the 1 vehicle, you have to base it on all 7 vehicles is how you have to base it off of.
Michael, won't he, I don't know, I think Dan said he had some trolleys. I don't know what the passenger capacity is of his trolleys, but my understanding is that Philadelphia is really going back and having that 30 and really going back to what they used to do, and that was a maximum passenger capacity of 38. Is that what you have heard as well?
Yeah, 35 is their max right now. Now, having said 35. That, yeah, okay. They have stayed on a few, but there's been some circumstances, and some of them are just a relationship issue. Like one of them, they stayed on has a lot of motor coaches, but they do a government contract. So okay. They don't in their heart they want to keep it because they're doing a government contract. Yeah. But I don't want to call Dan out here, but Philadelphia, if they knew these were true trolleys, they would not write you. So Philadelphia does not want trolleys, unless you've been there for 8 years. But if you have a trolley now and you're new, they're not going to write you.
Okay, and I think we have Stuart. Stuart has some questions as well.
Yes, hi, Michael. Thank you for being here today.
Welcome.
I guess the first question I have is, first of all, just as background, I use all independent contractors. Since COVID, we've gone from contractors with multiple vehicles to mostly owner-operators at this point. So they have the right, and of course they go to their own underwriters like yourself. I think some may go and to various agents around the city. Mm-hmm. The first question comes from an issue seems to come up repetitively. We have many large clients who require that they be covered as additional insureds. Mm-hmm. In some cases, some of these agents will write that without additional costs, and in others, agents require a $50 fee for each additional insured. I want to get an idea of why that's the case, whether that's really just a decision made by the agent, or whether or not that's something that's locked into whoever it is that's the underwriter for those groups.
Good question.
All right, so Stuart, there's a couple of things here. A lot of times, somebody just requests an additional insurance certificate, okay? If you ever look at the very, very top of the insurance certificate, it clearly states this is a matter of information only. This confers no rights upon the additional or certificate holder, okay? So basically, it's a worthless piece of paper that makes someone feel warm and fuzzy. To get the true coverage, you would need to get the additional insured endorsement. So CA 2048 is the name of the form. And then that actually would cover whoever's the additional insured is. So right now, if Stuart wants to be an additional insured on Diane's policy and you get this piece of paper, it's worthless. But if you get the actual endorsement, which is a part of the policy, if you guys were to have some sort of lawsuit together, that would make Diane's policy cover you as well, defend you in that lawsuit.
Is that also known as a named insured?
No, additional named insured is different. So that'd be like if it's Stewart Transportation and Diane Limousine. Now the first name insured gets, they get all the mailing, they're on the hook for claims and they're responsible for everything. But if you have an additional named insured, they then act as named as the first insured as well.
Mhm. I'm quite surprised because I do know somewhat of this information, and our industry as a whole, I think, is not aware of this breakdown. And to my understanding, the additional insured is really only good for that day, and after that, it's catch as catch can. That beyond that, there's no requirements associated with it. But it is very costly to get that, especially I know in our case we have as many as perhaps 30 large companies that are requesting this, and add an additional $1,500 is too much for our independent contractors. And yet, on the other hand, some of the companies that are requesting it perhaps are not professional enough to even understand the same things that you just explained. So they don't really they just want a piece of paper that basically says they're listed as an additional insured.
Correct.
So thank you for that.
Now, can I add something? I know that with the previous carrier that I had, they charge up to a certain number of certificates. Once you hit 5 AI certificates, then it was free. Up until then, it was $20 each.
And Stuart and Tim, just every carrier is different there. And most of the companies I deal with, will not charge for that additional insured endorsement. Like National Indemnity, Berkshire Hathaway, they'll definitely charge for that. What carriers will charge for would be a hold harmless or a waiver of subrogation. And those expand the rights to that party greatly. And that's why they charge for that.
Okay. If I may ask one more here.
Sure.
I'm trying to understand why there's such a great difficulty in obtaining, and I think they're slightly different, an umbrella or a hired and non-owned policy. I mean, I get philosophically why that's the case with me and the fact that I use independent contractors. We've historically been able to get that, but right now it seems like companies do not want to write it. And if they do, it's for significantly larger companies and in some cases for a significant amount of money.
Stuart, it is tough. I'm actually currently working on a owner operator policy for about 69 vans operating for a school contractor. And it's difficult because when you have that owner operator policy, we're also we can't carve it out. So we're covering that owner operator when they go to the grocery store to get groceries, when their daughter who just turned 16 takes out on Friday night. So then there's coverage that's always there. And a lot of times, Stuart, you're not able to manage or oversee day-to-day maintenance of that vehicle. You really have no say-so in it. It's free to go. We could take that car to Canada for a week, go to Mexico, go to Florida, spend 2 weeks in New York City straight. So there's a lot of unknowns, and it is very expensive right now. You're not kidding.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you clarify what Stuart's question was? What kind of policy is that?
Stuart, if I'm wrong, let me know. He's looking for a hired and non-owned policy for his owner operators. And I think if I'm hearing Stuart correctly, he's looking for something to protect himself as well.
So the company would hold this policy, the company that's hiring the IOs would hold this policy that he's asking about, correct?
Yep.
Okay,
And in our case, since all of our independent contractors have $1.5 million,
right.
by getting an additional, and maybe you could speak to this, the difference between an umbrella and a hired unknown, maybe one is a subcategory of the other. But by having the two together, we may meet requirements of some of our clients that require or that are requesting a $5 million liability insurance coverage for sedans and SUVs, which leads into my second question, actually, which is that there are companies out there that may have 5 million or let's say 10 million on their buses, the larger vehicles.
Mhm.
Do they have the choice, therefore, to have that coverage go? I mean, imagine if they want to pay it, they could have that coverage theoretically on their sedans or let's say SUVs, or do they limit the coverage on the sedans and SUVs to 1.5 million and only have the 5 million or 10 million for their larger vehicles like buses? It's kind of a second question, but associated with this.
All right, so the short answer, Stuart, is that if you have one limo, 14 passenger limousine, I'm sorry, you have 114 passenger limousines and one 16 passenger bus, if you operate interstate commerce, every vehicle would have to have the $5 million limit
Okay.
because of the common ownership.
But if they're independent contractors, that would not be the case, obviously.
Yeah, that's correct.
So I can't go out and buy a bus for 5 million and then have my independent contractors covered under that 5 million liability policy, correct?
That in that setup, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Medicare benefits review. Now is the time during the Medicare annual.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for Michael?
Additional benefits at little to no additional.
I just have
or additional benefits.
one added question, and somebody has their TV on. If everyone could just please
Randy,
Make sure you are.
go on mute.
It's you.
Randy.
If you're not sure you're on the best plan for you, just call the.
Paul, are you able to mute him?
It was
Thank
Randy.
you.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Randy. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Michael,
was.
what are the advantages? So in having the GPS for the cameras and having, a training of your chauffeurs, and how does that help you with your insurance company? And how do you show them that you have all of these policies in place and the trainings in place? Does that help you by putting those steps in place?
It does, and I'll answer your question in a long kind of way here. If you, again, and this is geared in this topic to maybe those with 10 or more vehicles, but one of the things that I would suggest doing, and I'm not gonna say all my customers do this, but a vast majority do, is it'd be nice to put together like a 2 or 3 paragraph synopsis of your operation. Say it all, hey, this is Windy City Limousine, we started in 2006, management team consists of, X, Y, and Z. We predominantly operate in a 350-mile radius, utilizing a newer fleet of, breaking out your sedans and buses. We feel we go above and beyond. We've implemented these steps. All of our new motor coaches are purchased. They all have the SawCon camera system. We also have lane departure avoidance. So this gets back to what I said earlier on. I don't know everything you guys have safety-wise or technology-wise, and virtually every application that you're going to look, I hope you guys are seeing the applications, are looking at is going to ask these questions on there. Do you use advanced technology? Do you use, accident event recorders? Do you hold regular safety meetings? Who is your safety director? So at no point am I going to show Tracy a quote that shows your insurance is $10,000, but because you did these 3 things, you got a $400 discount. It's never going to say that. But what data is going to show, and it's still happening, but you're going to have a claim. It's just going to happen. You're going to have claims. But all these steps that you're doing, should it be a bad claim even and goes to trial, you have put forth all these processes and steps that you guys have done and monitored, that's going to avoid a large payout should a claim happen. You asked one more question about the, was it cameras?
Yes, cameras, training,
Yeah.
Just safety policies.
Yeah, so again, I presume you guys, most people would have an electronic copy of their safety manual. You guys would have an electronic copy of what your DVIRs look like. You would have, we're going to ask for a lot of information from everyone, but the bigger you are, the more questions we're going to ask, and we're trying to fine tune, what it is you're going to be paying. Just because the ISO rate for this territory is $6,000, I'm just making this up, $6,000. Well, there's no reason that if you have 100 vehicles, you should be paying that same price. If you're doing all these steps and the economy of scale, you should then be paying less for this. And, you know, and it's also right now, the bigger you are, technically you have some more resources for income, and you can afford these extra technologies that, again, you don't want to have to use, but, you know, God forbid you do have a claim, these cameras, like it or not, are going to help solve the claim so much faster. Even if you're innocent, it's going to prove that. If you're at fault, the driver keeps saying, "Oh, I wasn't at fault," that camera is going to show us that information in most cases, and that's going to settle the claim that much faster. The faster a claim gets settled, the lower it's going to get settled for, and that's going to benefit you, you know, in your loss runs and your pricing over the next 5 to 6 years.
Got it. Okay, so
And
if
then-
I
well,
did
and I was-
see it, go
I was
ahead,
gonna say
Tim.
real quick, one of the things that some of the carriers offer for free is GPS trackers.
Yep.
Because that does help lower some of the risk. It's not as good as cameras, but if you can track the vehicle and monitor your vehicles while they're out on the road, that, you know, they
Right.
can do that. Philly Track, you know,
Yep.
with Philadelphia is one of them, and, you know, I'm
Correct.
sure there are others out there.
Correct. And I know some people do have concerns with being provided information, Philly Track or a camera system from insurance company B, because they feel that it's just the insurance company watching them. That's not the case. They have too many of these things out there. They're not going to watch what Tim's doing on, you know, on Kansas. Why is he doing 65 and a 55? They're not noticing that. That Philly Track has been a great thing for Philadelphia customers with how they're doing the COVID stuff. They can show that because Philadelphia has changed how they're doing their COVID. Now everything's after the fact instead of, it's a change, let's put it that way. And, you know, with that Philly Track, you can show, hey, my vehicle number 7 didn't move. So it's a also helpful way to get, you know, get them credit back in that short term. It's also a benefit to have that GPS when this happens a lot in school buses, where they say, you know, your school bus hit my car at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, the GPS will show you were not even near that area. So that's also a benefit. And a lot of the camera systems have a GPS tie into them as well. So.
Okay, and then, so there was another question. It has been an hour, so we do need to move on, but there is another question on the chat box. If Michael, if you could go there and answer that question,
Sure.
as well as put your contact information in the chat box. There was a request for your email address as well.
I'll definitely put that in there, and I'll hang out for a little while here. Is there a plan after this for another Q&A or?
Yeah.
We normally we do a roundtable discussion like the last 15 or 20 minutes where we just open it up to general discussion. If anybody does have questions relating to Michael and insurance, go ahead and put that in the chat box so Michael can see it. But if you have questions even after this Zoom, you can send it to Paula or myself and we can get it to Michael and connect you as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for the great questions, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. So now we will move on to Brian with Alternative Claims Management. So I think any of us would welcome any newfound cash that's rightfully ours. And I think Brian is the person that could do that for us right now. So Brian, you are up next.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I appreciate the kind intro, Brian. That was very good. Well, this is I'm going to share my screen because I have a PowerPoint. I don't know how many people are on the screen, or can everyone see my screen now?
Yes. And for those that are not able to see it because you're not on the Zoom video, Paula can also email you the link for the slide deck, so you can have that after the meeting as well.
All right. So the good thing about this section is I'm going to teach you how to get money and how you can get money. And I know the whole last hour was a great informative one. Michael, thank you for that. It was some great questions. And a lot of the stuff ties into what we do. So, but my section's about trying to get you money. And with insurance costs rising so much, I think you're going to really like this section. I'm going to try to move along pretty quickly. Because we've been here for an hour, so people start to, get a little antsy after an hour. Here's the things we're going to go over. We're going to go over types of accidents and the recovery options you have, loss of revenue and use and the laws supporting them. We're also going to go over what is diminution of value and the laws supporting that. Also pursuing claims up to 5 years old, and actually it's up to 6 years depending on the state, but 5 years is in Illinois. We're going to go over the insurance challenges, their goal versus yours, and how to set yourself up for the best recovery. The last section, how to set yourself up for the best recovery, is very, very important. So if you listen to nothing else I say today, please do that. So I'm going to shut my video off, I think, because I think that's disruptive here. So I will shut the video down. All right. So first thing, types of accidents. There's basically two types: not your fault and at-fault accidents. Unfortunately, hit and run and uninsured motorists are going to end up on your side of the fence as your driver's fault and go into your insurance. It's just the way it is. That's one of the big questions I get all the time is, can you go after loss of revenue for a hit and run? Well, there's just nobody to chase. The other thing I get a lot, especially in the Midwest, is deer. People say, well, we hit a deer. It wasn't our driver's fault. Can you recover loss of use for that or loss of revenue? And my answer is always the same. You give me the deer's policy and we'll pursue it. So really what we're talking about is loss of use and loss of revenue or loss of use. Sorry about that. You're entitled to loss of revenue, loss of use when you don't have the use of your chattel. And that's due to an accident that wasn't your driver's fault. Now, here's the big thing. That applies even if you have spare units available. It's very important. One of the things when people become clients and they've tried to pursue this stuff on their own before is they've always said, well, we tried, but they said we had other vehicles, so we couldn't do anything about it. That's irrelevant. You could have 100 spare units. You're entitled to the use of that chattel. So, and again, not at fault accidents. So there's basically two things we can recover for your downtime. So your vehicle's hit by a third party, they have valid insurance. We're going to look at either loss of revenue or loss of use. Now, loss of revenue is if that vehicle cannot be rented or replaced with a rental unit. A good example is an ambulance. You can't rent an ambulance. In the limo case, and I use your examples a lot in a lot of these presentations, is you may have a vehicle that's absolutely can be rented. You could get an Escalade or you could get that same vehicle, but it doesn't have the permits needed to pick up somebody at the airport, or it doesn't have the DOT registration or all the different things that have to happen for you to be able to pick up your passengers. So it's one of those things where we typically go after loss of revenue in your industry. And the second one is loss of use. Now that's if a vehicle can be rented. Now here's the thing about, especially lately, what we've run into is if you have a unit that maybe has, because typically we're going back 90 days to get a revenue picture for the insurance demand. If you have a vehicle that has been not that well used, and let's say it sat for maybe 40 of those 60 days, we're almost better off in some cases pursuing a loss of use, because that would be a higher dollar figure than loss of revenue, because the vehicle just hasn't been producing revenue for that. We're seeing that a lot with COVID here. That's been something that's come up with the COVID, especially as people are starting to get back into the swing of using their vehicles. We're finding out that 90-day past period just is not a good representation of the revenue. So in a lot of those cases, we've been either using the previous year or we've been just using loss of use. So the law supports it. And if you don't have the vehicle, you can't use it. There's and I get a lot of questions about this, which is why would the law support it if I have a spare vehicle? Well, nobody dropped that vehicle on your lot for free. And as you just noticed from Michael's presentation, you've got a lot of stuff to deal with. You got insurance, maintenance, licensing, equipment, inspections, decals, all those different things. So there's a lot of things that go into just having that vehicle. And if you're in a metropolitan area, just the parking space alone is a serious cost. So this is the actual restatement of torch, which addresses the loss of use and revenue. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, so I can't get you legal advice, but that's just, and this slideshow will be available if you need it. Just reach out to me and I'll send it to you. So what's diminution of value? Essentially, it's a decrease in the value of your vehicle as a result of an accident. Diminution of value is affected by a lot of different things: the age, the condition, the mileage, and the marketplace for the vehicle, and the type of damage. So one of the things that happens in your industry is diminution of value is very challenging because of the high mileage on these vehicles. We'll have a 2019 with 100,000 miles. So in that case, it's very hard to get diminution of value. So the best way to try to capture that diminution of value is to get a very thorough estimate. In our particular company, we use independent appraisers. So a body shop may come up with an $8,000 estimate. We use an independent appraiser to look at every part and procedure to put it back to its pre-accident condition, which you're legally entitled to. So that could be maybe 10,000. So that $2,000 is repair-related diminution of value that helps get you whole on that vehicle when you sell it. So here's a kind of a graphical example. Never crashed and repaired, value is 55. There's $7,000 of loss in value or inherent diminution of value. So this is the big money thing, past claims. This is the state statutes. They go everywhere from, well, one in Louisiana to 10 in Rhode Island. So past claims are found money. So we can pursue, or you can pursue any claim that's up to your statute of limitation to your state, where you're not at fault accident, and even if you ran it through your insurance company, it was paid, the physical damage was paid, but you didn't get loss of use or diminution of value, that's still pursuable as long as it's within the statute and you didn't sign a release. That's the key thing, is if you signed a release, there's really not much we can do. Now, the best way to start on this thing is to look at your loss runs. Go through your loss runs. If you're insured with Michael and I talked about taking his clients' loss runs and looking at them to see if we can find any not at fault accidents that are pursuable. But loss runs are your friend. So if you have loss runs, you can either send them to us, we'll look at them for you and determine which ones are pursuable, or you can look at them yourself. But loss runs are really the key, because we find all the time that people are not seeing the accidents. We'll go back 2, 3, 4 years and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. And so it's really a good thing to use your loss runs to get those out. So what do you need when you go after these old claims? You're going to need the at-fault parties information, the insurance carrier and claim number, the repair estimate, and support for the income that unit generated. Typically, it's 90 days prior to the accident. 90 days prior to the accident is pretty much the industry standard. So it's really important that you have good documentation of that. Some of you guys use Limo Anywhere, Santa Cruz. There's a lot of different systems. Almost any system we can work with. Excel spreadsheets are not good. We typically don't like to use them. Insurance companies hate them. So you want to try to use it from the original software if possible. So that's the found money. And again, that's if you have any old claims, it's worth pursuing. These types of recoveries can really make a difference for your insurance premium. So if you get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 recovered, that goes a long way towards easing that premium pain, as we call it. So actually, I think Becky's on this phone. This is a picture of Becky before she started using us for her claims. So she was waiting for the claim to be settled. So this is an actual picture of Becky prior to engaging us as a client.
I think we had some people at our office that looked like that too.
Yeah, well, I know I'm going to hear about that from Becky. So what is the insurance challenges? The bottom line is your goal is just a fair and equitable settlement. That's what you want. Unfortunately, their goal is to pay out the least amount possible for the loss. I don't blame them. I would do the same thing. They're motivated to pay the least amount possible. Now, this applies even to your insurance company. So if you have a loss, it's your fault. They're still motivated to pay you the least. So it's kind of a across the board thing. And so it's really important that you have all your ducks in a row when you try to go after these things. So documentation is critical. Absolutely. We have probably closed, I don't know, $2-3 million worth of recovery just because we couldn't get the documents we needed. So documentation is very, very critical. And again, from the original source. If you have a Limo Anywhere software, you want to be able to use that report out of Limo Anywhere or Santa Cruz or whatever system you're using. So the key is to support any demand.
And isn't this the point where the cameras become critical, video cameras?
Yeah, one of the things that we see a lot is where people have a claim and they just aren't sure whether it's their fault or not their fault, so they'll turn it to their insurance company. We want, for our clients at least, give it to us. Let us look at it. We have accident recreation people that will look at all different types of things, pictures, photographs, GPS. They'll do tracking of the intersection. And cameras are absolutely wonderful. I can't tell you how many times cameras have saved a claim, and or just even the GPS. We've used the GPS tracker that one of the people was talking about. I forgot what company it was, but we've used those to make a big difference in how that claim went. And that goes, if you have, let's say it's kind of half and half, and they're like, well, we're 20% responsible. What we're going to do in our case is try to get that to 100. Maybe it gets it to 80, but 80 is better than 20. So in the next section, I'm going to talk about what to do in case of an accident. That'll really help you. But if you're leaning towards getting cameras, I can't tell you how critical it is. One of my past clients that I used, we put in 4,000 cameras at his trucking company. And when it first started, it was very, very challenging. They thought it was Big Brother. We don't like it, blah, blah, blah. A lot of profanity being tossed into the air there. But the first time a driver was in an accident and it completely exonerated him, then suddenly it was okay. It is a little bit challenging at first, but I tell you, if you're at fault, it gets you to a situation where you want to settle that claim and move on quickly. If you're not at fault, it gives you support to be able to argue your case. So on the other insurance challenges, be prepared to leave dozens of voicemails and send a ton of emails. We've been doing this 20 plus years 23 years in our company. And even after that, and even after all these insurance companies who know who we are, they know we're never going to give up. They know we know the laws. They know we're going to support our demands. Even after all that, it'll still take us 12, 15, 20 phone calls to settle a claim. They just don't like to settle them. They have the checkbook and they don't like opening it. So I didn't stop for questions. I figured we'd move through these things. So exhaust all forms of recovery. There's times when there are maybe a not at fault accident or the person that hit you has $10,000 for the limits or whatever the number is. And that's pretty much the end of it. Maybe they were running a company errand, so maybe the company's policy goes on it. Maybe they have an umbrella. There's other kinds of policies that come into play maybe. So try to exhaust all forms of recovery. If it's a livestock animal that was in the road and you hit it, it's actually the duty of the farmer to control his livestock. So if it got out and you hit it, it's literally covered by that farmer's insurance company. We did have one like that. So here's some results. I can't speak for other companies. This is our company results. So, again, every client we've engaged that's been doing it themselves, they've seen a dramatic increase. Not to just keep pushing so much for our company, but it's the only one that I know clear-cut results. And a lot of you guys are clients. I know the only one I know that really does it themselves is Park Avenue Allen and Diane Forgy. So those are the only two I know that do it themselves and really enjoy it. So here's some of the results, and again, they're by my make and model. But loss of use in loss of revenue, we covered that before. It's kind of a toss-up in your industry. You want to be able to pursue which one's the higher amount. So we're very flexible in that in our particular case. Percentage of fleet recovery, that's really doesn't really apply for your industry. So here's the slide that you really got to look at for your accidents. And by the way, we have a little accident guide here that we will go ahead and send you, and I'll send it out, just request it from you, and I'll send you the PDF of that. You can use it any way you want. You can change things on it, whatever you want to do. But this is a little handy thing where you can put in your glove box. Each one of these is basically a result of one of our clients saying, oh yeah, that happened to me, or learning from experience. The one that I always kind of focus on is the 1 second to the bottom. Don't agree not to report. And you heard it with Michael, where he talked about an accident that they weren't even aware of, and it came up 2 years later. Well, I was given a presentation, and one of the people raised their hands in the audience, and they said, hey, Brian, I think you need to add this to this guide. He had a situation where it was a limo company, slight fender bender, didn't cause any damage to either one. The driver got out, the other driver got out, the at-fault driver said, well, doesn't seem to be anything. I'm good, you good. Separate ways. About 3 weeks later, he gets a lawsuit for I don't know how much, but at the end of the day, even though he had no knowledge of this accident, he never heard of it, it cost him $30,000 to defend this lawsuit over them just not agreeing to report. So that's one to think about. Any questions on this stuff? If anyone has, you can jump in. So,
Brian, what does it cost to hire you, or how do you get started?
well, I'm going to get to that, but you can get started by calling me right now. There's no cost for our service. The only way we make money in our particular company is if we get loss of use and diminution of value for you. We always recover the physical damage at no cost. So, the only way we get paid is if you win. So in our particular case, that's how we do it. Some people charge percentage of the physical damage. We just don't. And again, with the old claims is really the best place to start. If you have any old claims in your system from 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever your state statute is, look at those loss runs, send them to me. We'll look at them. It's found money for you. It's not doing you any good in your filing cabinet or your hard drive. So,
and I just want to say is I first met Brian at my 20 group. It was probably over 2 years ago. And, Brian kept calling and kept emailing and just wanting to come in and talk to us here at Windy City. And it just sounded too good to be true. So, it probably took close to a year before we had Brian come in and do a presentation, because we thought we had our insurance covered. We thought we were doing a good job in investigating our accidents and collecting loss of revenue. That's pretty easy to do. But we decided to give Brian a chance, and I think we're over 75,000 in the past year of money we had no idea we weren't collecting. So we've been extremely satisfied with your customer service is excellent. Very, very responsive.
well, thank you. Thank you. The key for any of these accidents is to really control the claim from the very beginning. As soon as you notify the at-fault carrier, they're going to want to send out an appraiser. That appraiser's job is to pay out the least amount possible. And so if you use us, we engage so you don't have to do any of that. We go after the at-fault party, we contact them, we handle the claim from start to finish so that they don't get a chance to look at that vehicle, because we control the estimate, we control the claim. Because we're not going as your party, we're as a third party going into it. So that's really the key, is controlling the claim from the very start. And that includes looking at, kind of getting back to this accident thing, we jumped around a little bit, but take lots of pictures. If you guys listen to nothing else I said today, educate your people on taking a ton of pictures when they're in an accident. The vehicles on both of them, both damaged, close up, far away, the license plate, the intersection, skid marks. We've had one claim where just a picture of an oil slick on the road and the way it was positioned changed it from a complete denial by the insurance company to 100% acceptance. And that one was over $70,000. Actually, I think that was Superior Ambulance, which you guys know in your neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
So be prepared to gather witness statements. People just sometimes don't like to get involved, but if you can get a witness, that is so critical. And that's what we tell people, is just yell out, does anyone see this thing? Or try to get somebody who's on the side and ask them, did they see it? Because a witness, third-party witness, is very powerful when we're trying to take an accident that's questionable liability and turn it into, hey, 100% is their fault.
So for company owners, I guess that would be a good point as far as training your chauffeurs to gather that information. Yes, we train them to take pictures. We train them to collect the information from the other driver. However, I don't think we spend a lot of time of encouraging them to look for witnesses or gather the information from witnesses, cell phone numbers or addresses.
Yeah, and it's extremely valuable. It's extremely valuable. So
We just had a situation a while back where we got hit by we had an accident involving a taxi. And the driver did everything that we normally instruct, you know, the photos and all that stuff. But because it was a taxi, he didn't bother to get the customer's name or any information. And once the claim started to move forward, we had an absolute refusal by 5-Star to give it to us because they were trying to say it was privacy. And the customer actually caused the accident because she swung the door open. So it's, yeah, so we just changed our procedures recently to include, you know, anybody, even the people that were in the accident, in the car, whatever, you know.
You know, that's a good thing. I'm going to add that to this for, you know, for that industry, anyone who's transporting people. You know, we do a lot of ambulances, and in that case, it's kind of a given in their situation. But yeah, that's a very, very good point. Great addition, Paul. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the other thing is, after the accident, ensure the documents flow to the right people, the estimates and all that stuff. Again, I can't tell you how many, I mean, it's literally millions of claims that we've closed that we pursued because we couldn't get an estimate or we couldn't get the right documents. So try to get it flowing to the right people and get statements quickly. People change within a week, they'll forget a lot of details. So try to get the statements as soon as you can. So this is one thing that we tell all of our clients, please report it to your carrier for reporting purposes only, and that you'll be subrogating the claim. We have noticed a lot of people in your industry just do not report these to their carriers, partly because they don't want the number of incidents to increase. That's a business decision on your part. The reason we say it is if something goes south on that claim, they want to be notified because let's say it's a limits issue. Let's say you have a coach and your repairs are $45,000 and you have a $25,000 policy limit. You know, in that case, we'll get the 25,000, but to get anything beyond 25,000, it's going to have to go to your carrier or your pocket. So that's a business decision. A lot of people don't in the business because they're just worried about the number of incidents. So take immediate action. You heard Michael was saying that on his presentation, is definitely take immediate action. You have an obligation to mitigate your losses. We see a lot of times where these things will sit. You definitely want to take immediate action. These claims seem to have a momentum. If we can keep the momentum going, they get solved a lot quicker. So get an accurate and thorough estimate. If you're using a body shop, you know, in our particular case, we have you use any body shop you want, but if it's over a certain amount, we'll go ahead and have an independent appraiser go out, and then they look at that set of facts, and we take it to a third party, which then compares it to the manufacturer's specs. So Cadillac has certain specs. MCI has certain specs. All of them have certain specs, which body shops typically are not, you know, that well versed on. They're not going to do every part and procedure according to the manufacturer's specs. They're going to repair it back to what they call the P pages and all that. And it's for lack of a better term, it's a very thorough estimate, and you're legally entitled to it in its pre-accident condition.
I think what's maybe worth mentioning too is that when it's a third party, I know we've had issues with State Farm and farmers particularly. It's kind of important to make sure that on their side, they understand that it's a livery vehicle. We've had some issues in the past where they would come in and do the estimates and stuff, but they were treating it like just a regular, you know, passenger insurance. And we had to keep explaining that it was livery, you know. So I don't think it hurts to make sure they understand that this is a livery vehicle. We're constantly explaining it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, challenges we have in ours, and we do so many limo companies that it's something that's common in our procedures now. But the other thing about that is if it's a total loss
Mhm.
and you need to replace that vehicle, you can't get, well, at least depending on the time, a year ago, you couldn't get one for 90 days to 120 days. They were all gone. You could not get one. If you ordered one that day, and there was one claim I know where it was a total loss, and we got something from the dealer saying it was going to be 120 days before they could replace that unit. And I don't remember what the actual days of the claim were settled on, but that's a lot better than the typical 35 days or 30 days to replace the vehicle that typically they'll agree to. So that's a very good point. And along with the special medallions and all those things and any graphics or any of those type of things that you have.
Right.
So again, their adjusters are typically not trained. You say livery package to them, they just look at you like you got 3 heads.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't know. So keep the vehicle in a non-charging storage area. This is absolutely critical. For some reason, insurance companies absolutely hate to pay storage. So if you get a vehicle and it's totaled or whatever it is, make sure it's in a non-charging storage area. I've seen them settle $60,000 loss of use and then argue for a month on a $500 storage bill. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, they just don't like to pay storage. So I went pretty fast because I wanted to, be respectful of everyone's time because we've been here a long time. So what questions does anyone have? And again, I can give you this PowerPoint and I'll send a PDF out of that accident guide. But what questions are there? And I think I addressed most of the stuff that Michael was talking about.
Hey everyone, it's Becky from Boston. You guys have a great meeting here, and Brian, of course, always a great presentation. I don't really have any questions. I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to Brian and his company. We started using him a bunch of years ago now, and I'll be honest, the first call on any accident is to the insurance company, and I just said, I'm just telling you about it. We're not filing a claim, just telling you about it. Second calls to Brian. I don't handle any of it anymore. You've saved me so many hours and just headaches, just terrible headaches. When we met, I was in the middle of a claim that I had been fighting for 6 months, 100% the other company's fault. And he had it finished in, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks. And the whole way I could watch the process. His customer service was amazing. He's got lawyers right on staff, and they're just very responsive. So, as other claims came in and I'm like, hey, where are we on this? Expecting them to be really quick. And he's like, this one's a little tougher. You got that Geico. That's a hard one to fight against. So he's like, I'd take 10 others against that one Geico. Don't like the Geico. So I just wanted to, the diminishing, I can't even say, Brian, diminution of value, the loss of value on the car, huge. It's huge. You're getting $5,000 because that car's worth $5,000 less now that it's been fixed. And I just would never went for that ever in all my years. So that's a great addition to what he gives us. And Brian, that little skeleton picture of me, I wish I was then, but I'm not. So good to see all you limo folks out there. And I just kind of wanted to give Brian a little bit of a heads up because he's just so great to work with, and he just sends me checks. I don't send him any checks. I love him. Thanks, guys.
Great seeing you, Becky.
Good to see you too. I do have to jump off. I have interviews, so I have to jump off. But it was good to see you all.
Awesome. Good luck.
Okay, bye-bye.
But yeah, to Becky's point, some claims go quick, but some of them are pretty long. At the end of the day, we try to do them in 2 stages. We try to get the physical damage paid first, and then we'll go after loss of use and diminution of value. And the reason we do that is it goes much quicker if it's just a physical damage. Then it can go to one person. It doesn't have to get approval for all these different areas. Once you throw in loss of use or loss of revenue and diminution of value, it typically takes longer because it has to go to another department. They'll say, well, I don't handle that. And if it's over a certain dollar amount, then it has to go to the next adjuster. So it does take time, but I think Randy Harris is on the call here, and he always said the short money is the easy money. And so I better should just shut up and get questions now. That's probably better.
Let me check the chat if anything has come in.
No, I looked.
And it looked like Illinois was surprisingly favorable compared to so many other states. So we can go back 5 years. It looked like a majority of the states were 2 and 3 years. So that's actually good news.
Yeah, and again, loss runs are your friend. I can't tell you how many times people said, no, we haven't had any accidents. We get the loss runs and then find that there's 2 or 3. And they say, oh yeah, I forgot about that one. So.
Right. Okay, so if we
there's
don't
my
have the-
information. Thank you very much for everyone's time. And if you need anything, just give me a call.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brian, and also your team for putting everything together for today.
Thank you.
All right. So now we're back. So I think next on the agenda, so we have about 25 minutes left. Next on the agenda, we have Rob from Chauffeur Driven that has joined us today, and he's going to talk a little bit about the CD-NLA virtual that is being held next week on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Hey guys, how are you all?
Good.
Hi,
Well,
Rob.
thank you, Tracy. I can't believe the virtual is less than a week, well, a week away exactly. Tuesday and Wednesday next week, November 17th and 18th. You can register still at cdnlavirtual.com, all one word. You know, Tracy can talk about it more than I can really, but she and Jason have been planning an excellent agenda of education that is comparable, if not surpasses, what we would offer it in person. It's very, very, very timely with a lot of focus put on, you know, restarting, rebranding, repivoting your business. So, you know, there's a great keynote on economic forecast for the future, best practices for offering new and not quite new services, but way to target services, diversification for pivoting. It's going to be good stuff. And there's things like that you'd expect from our show. So we do have the mentoring session, and the list of mentors is on the website. We have 14 mentors and 14 next gen operators that'll work with them. You'll be in your own private room, you know, a Zoom room. So it'll work all the same. So unfortunately, we're not in Orlando, and no one's more unhappy about that than my kids. But I think you're going to get what you expect from CD and NLA out of this show. And the women's event is another returning. We have Mary Crafts, who is going to do a great session that Tracy and Nancy will moderate. So Tracy, I don't know if you want to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, what Rob was saying, I mean, it's extremely timely. I've been working on, who thought we were going to be planning a virtual show instead of an actual show. So probably about 4 months ago, we started planning the topics for the virtual. And as you all know, everything has been changing day by day. And we have been changing our agenda and our topics as the world's been changing around us. I cannot stress enough, you know, the importance, just hearing from other operators and what they are doing and why they made the decisions that they did. And, you know, do they regret some of the decisions that they made? And what about going forward? You know, what are they looking at the next 3 to 6 months? What are their barometers that they're measuring before they make their next decisions? So in planning all of the different topics, you know, we've made it very, very clear as we're having our pre-planning calls with the operators of the ability of being honest. You know, don't sugarcoat anything. You know, if you were scared, let us know you were scared, and this is why you had fear. This is why, you know, you you felt the way you did when you made these decisions. Everybody had to do mass layoffs. That did not feel good to anyone. However, we want to hear, what were the feelings? What did you regret? What did you do right? What would you have done differently if we were to be able to do it over? Because even though some operators made these hard decisions 5 and 6 months ago, there are still operators out there that haven't made the hard decisions, and they just might need to hear from another operator at this point to say, you know what, I do need to make these decisions. I have the confidence today because I heard from these other experiences. I do need to do this today. I do need to call my bank today and defer. I thought I could hang on, but who knew we were going to be 8-9 months into this? Like, we're just midway through it right now. So just hearing from other operators, and we have several. I mean, I bet we have over 40 different speakers on a variety of topics, mostly revolving around resetting your business and what that looks like. What it looks like to reset the business for Windy City is much different than what it looks like with Brian of Epic Limo. Whereas we could, Brian might have thought of something like we totally missed, and we just can't afford to miss anything. And if there's anything we can go back and change, I want to hear about it. We want to hear about it. There's also going to be a mental wellness. What better time than to hear from a business coach or a life coach about mental wellness and how we can cope with everything we're dealing with right now. I think that's going to be really good. I think the NLA member only session, it has 6 different operators representing large, mid-size, and small size operators, and just hearing from them. And again, it was made very, very clear that we want to hear the good, bad, and the ugly. We don't want anything sugar-coated. We don't want to hear, just surface answers. We're asking all of these operators to go deep, be candid, and be totally honest so that we can learn from them. Right now everyone's deferments are up. We all use the second round of deferments, and how many were approved for the third round, and what does it look like for the next 6 to 12 months? What do those conversations look like? Did you already renegotiate all of your vendor contracts? That really should have been started 3 months ago before our vendors realized, what this is going to look like. But none of us are coming back the size that we were 8 months ago. So just hearing how they're renegotiating all contracts, not just vehicle payments. So I can't stress enough. I've been heavily involved with the show committee and working on the different topics, but I can't stress enough how important all of this information is to anybody and everybody that is in this industry right now. So yeah, the registration link is up. So if you can register, that is up. And like Rob said, the mentoring program is there. It's only allowing 15 people per mentor. And I know that's filling up fairly quickly. That came out, I think, on Friday.
Yep.
So definitely sign up for that if you're interested. And then
Sign up for that, I'm sorry, Tracy, sign up. It's till Monday for the mentors. So you will need to get in there till next Monday.
Okay. Okay, good to know. And there is some networking as well. There's going to be some bonus networking at the end of each one of the days. So bring your cocktail, bring your drink, and our industry seems to like the networking part of it. So take advantage of that. It'll just be good to see everyone. So yeah, that's all I have on that. If anyone has any questions on that.
We are working on a bit of entertainment, so there will be some fun. It just won't be sitting in front of your computer listening to sessions. As valuable as they are, people want to network. So there'll be entertainment and possibly a musical chairs type networking event.
Oh.
Kind of fun.
I'm intrigued.
I heard about all that fun stuff, yeah. Okay.
Tracy,
Yes.
this is Rich DeYoung with MCI. Just a word on financial deferments from the greater motor coach industry.
Yes.
Everybody is on their third. Most everybody is on their third. The first 2 deferments of 90 days each were fairly straightforward. Some people opted for interest-only payments. Most requested principal and interest. The third go-round, depending on the finance company you have, has been a little bit more contentious in some respects. 2 different finance companies have have really pushed back, either refusing or requesting that interest only be made for the third deferment. A couple of different motor coach operators, very significant operators, have pushed back. One particular operator commented to the finance company that come and get the coaches. We can't afford another round of deferral. The conversation ended, and the customer kind of thought, well, maybe they'll come back with a counter offer, which they never did. We were then contacted by that finance company asking if we had a storage facility for 10 motor coaches. They told us who it was from. I reached out to that customer of mine. I've had him for 22 years and told him what we had been told. And he was completely surprised that the finance company was willing to do that without any kind of negotiation whatsoever. Yeah. So just as a fast forward to that situation, that client of mine did reach out to his finance company, and he did get a deferral for 6 months with the agreement that he pay a portion of his interest payment. So at all things, if you are at a point where you lay an ultimatum down with finance companies, I would dare say stay in contact. If they go dark on you, they're working on taking the vehicles back. So stay with them. Don't let them just disappear, and keep negotiating, because I think at the end of the day, I just have one customer right now in Tennessee with a finance company that is refusing to even call him back. And he's afraid he's going to lose 2 coaches in the next week or so. So whatever you do, stay in touch with these finance companies and don't let them just start making plans behind your back, because you'll just wake up one day and the repossessors will be there.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize that the finance company and the banks, like, they're a business too. Like, they have to answer to people and businesses above them, and they also have families to support as well. And so kind of going into it of just telling your story, and I think for the CD&LA virtual, I think you will hear several stories about that, is being extremely transparent with your bank, with your vendors, giving them forecasts. I mean, we give weekly forecasts. We call our bank several times a week. Every single time we have a change, we are on the phone and letting them know of that exact change and how that's going to affect the numbers. It's just really important. I know it sounds good, for the personal guarantees, those that have to personally guarantee, and it sounds good to say, hey, you know what, the keys are on the seat, come and get it. Right. Oh my gosh, that has such long lasting effects, and maybe you're not going to feel it, in the next coming months or even the next year. However, I can only imagine that 2 or 3 years from now, it is going to be felt, because it is a personal guarantee. The bank does have an obligation to follow up on that personal guarantee. So just think twice, before you make those comments. I know it feels good. I know it's frustrating. I just can't stress enough, just listen to other operators and listen to their experiences and how they communicated with their bank and some of the things that they've said. And if you can take one idea away that you can offer to your bank, that might be all it took, to make that next move, to get you through the next 3 months or 6 months. Hopefully come springtime or second quarter that we're coming out on the other side of this, but who would have thought that we're 8-9 months into it right now? So all good points, Rich, and thanks for sharing that.
And for
Yeah, Tracy?
Yes.
Quick question about and Rob also, about the virtual reality or CD thing. Are we going to be able to watch tape sessions? As everyone's downsized, so I'm multitasking, as you can see. Dispatch screen behind me, I'll be answering phones, that type of thing.
Yeah, they will be recorded. They will be recorded, because we do have quite a few concurrent where they're pretty decent topics going at the same time. So they definitely will be recorded. So as long as you have a registration link, they will send the recording of all the sessions to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I asked Paul about that before, and I just private messenger or whatever, but
You know, and I just want to say to this group here, you know, much the same as how we kind of use these meetings and all of a sudden you hang up and it's like, oh, shoot, I forgot to ask that question. You know, for this CD NLA virtual, it's the same thing. If you hear an operator that mentions something, it's like, wow, that pertains to me too. I wonder how he or she did this. You know, I can't stress enough of reaching out to that operator or just email me and I'll make an introduction to whoever it may be. That our industry is just so giving, and when it comes to needing information or to help each other, our industry is wonderful like that. So if you see something that happens on Tuesday or Wednesday and you want to follow up, I'd be more than happy. I'm sure Rob would, Chris Weiss, anybody would be happy to give an introduction so that you can ask those questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so let's see. We talked about our event next week and hope to see many of you there. I'm excited just to see how the virtual will look on Zoom. So next we have is Paula, if you can just give an update with the City of Chicago and some of the things that we've been working on there,
Yes.
especially regarding the upcoming licensing and renewals that we have coming up.
Okay, I'll do this pretty quick. So for the City of Chicago, you should have already received, for those who do livery in Chicago, your renewal email. If you did not, you should reach out to BACP. They came out a couple of weeks ago. They are encouraging everyone to do electronic or email submission of their documents to expedite the licensing renewals. So that's also for chauffeurs as well. If you need any instructions or don't seem to find them, you can definitely email us at ILLBA.org and we'll send them to you. The chauffeur licenses that expired between March and October, if they have not been renewed, those are officially expired. So I've gotten a few calls this week from chauffeurs who kind of forgot to get their paperwork in. So they technically cannot be operating until they get their licenses in the queue and start renewing. If you haven't done so already, your city tax filings for ground tax, for those of you who pay city ground tax, they were extended to the middle of October. If you haven't done them, you should do them soon because they are a requirement for livery license renewal. Lastly, I know on the last meeting, we talked a little bit about the possibility of some discussion with the city about the livery license situation and possible deferrals or any kind of relief. After that meeting, about a week or so later, we were advised that Alderman Tunney of the 44th Ward had filed a petition at the last city council meeting in October requesting that city council consider a delay in all license fees for 2021. Now, that does not mean they'll be reduced or prorated or anything like that. That is not what he was looking for. At this point, he just wanted to propose a continuation of the delay in license fees, and livery was included in that proposal. The bad news is it may be a little while before we get any updates because this month, the next couple of weeks, the city is pretty much hunkered down and all the committee members and aldermen are hunkered down for budget sessions that are going on for the next 2 or 3 weeks. But we will stay in touch with the 44th Ward office and they will keep us posted. And as always, if we discover we need to get out there and push this information, depending on how well he gets, how much progress Mr. Alderman Tunney makes, we'll be reaching out to our members to assist with that. Also, that's it on the city news. So as far as the association, if you haven't joined ILLBA, please reach out to me and I will send you an application. There are a few of you on here that I am still waiting for your application. Derek, welcome. You are now officially a member. Glad to have you. I also wanted to let you know that we are not charging dues for the rest of the year. And we'll have some very flexible dues payment programs similar to what the NLA is offering. So please reach out to us. I think this is a great time for you to get involved with your local association, particularly since we're trying to do monthly meetings such as this to help you all and to keep you in the loop and educated. And I think Tracy already mentioned earlier, for those of us, for those of you who are current members, you should have received your ballot for the 2020-2021 Board of Directors. The deadline is the 18th, so please remember to vote. It's one vote per company or vendor member. If you have any problems or can't find your ballot, you can contact me or Scott Dalheimer and we will help you. The next date for our coffee meeting is December 8th. And we are going to talk all things related to fraud and scams. Right now, so far, the agenda is still coming together. Century will be discussing credit card fraud, and I'm seeking out a few other speakers to talk about some general scams and fraud things that business owners need to look out for. So that is emerging, but December 8th is the date for that. And that's it. Those are my updates. And we have
Awesome. Does anyone have any questions regarding the updates, or does anybody have anything new they would like to bring up and for us all to discuss as a group?
I was just curious, does your area, did they do any like drive-through Christmas light displays or anything like that?
You talking Chicago itself or the suburbs?
Yeah. Well, any Chicago, the suburbs. I mean, you guys are in an area. I just don't know who does drive-through, who does displays up there, because with everything going on, I would think that,
Just put up
Christmas.
the Christmas tree yesterday.
Okay.
I watched the video as they erected the tree. So there'll definitely be decorations along the Mag Mile. But in the suburbs, there's various events going on. Probably Anson and the others know more about that than I do. I know that.
I do those in the trolley all the time.
Yeah.
In the suburbs.
Yeah. So there's different ones.
So just want you to know that Paula started talking about a tree erection.
Yeah, I did. I watched the video. It was so boring.
And I just want you to know, Tim, you're the only one that caught that. Dan, for your light tours, do you do a 3 or 4 hour minimum for those?
Usually 2. If it's most of the time I do them. It's for bars and cities, and so I'll do multiples, like a 45-minute tour, and I'll do 3 or 4 over 4 hours. But if I'm doing just a family of 20 people who want to go out, 2 hours is plenty, because after that they get stupid.
Yep.
Yeah. We're looking at the Morton Arboretum and zoo lights and things like that. So
a lot of country clubs do them. Country clubs and bars, things like that.
It'll be interesting this year. I mean, I know they're going back to groups of, 6 right now, or 10. And I think they're classifying buses as that. So it'll be interesting what happens.
That's what I'm told. I've been downtown. I did 4 downtown this weekend. No one blinked. And it's full. The trolleys were full. So.
And he keeps telling me I have to be on call in case I have to go bail him out downtown.
Yeah, just in case.
I think that exceeds my responsibility as executive director. I've already talked to Tracy about that. But all kidding aside, last weekend the reports from many operators were that it was pretty quiet as far as getting around, and last weekend too. Although interestingly, I got a call Friday that we had 72 city livery in the holding lot at O'Hare. I think that was a record. And I asked the person, why, how did they get to count them? Well, they were waiting for their ride. There was 2 suburban and 72 city. I said, okay, so interesting. I don't know if that means we're getting better or whatever, but that's probably the largest number I've heard in quite a while. So all things considered. Okay,
Do we have anything else that anyone wants to discuss? Larry, you have anything in Wisconsin going on up there?
No, not really. It's been nice weather. You've had the same down there, I see.
Yes, it's been gorgeous.
No, it'll probably snow this weekend though.
Probably. I have family pictures on Saturday, so probably.
Yeah. That's okay. Expect like a 60-degree day in January because, everything that's going on. I mean,
right.
Crazy world, right?
Oh.
Absolutely.
All right. If we don't have anything else, again, my email address. You can call me anytime. Same with Paula. I'm sure anybody from the board. Definitely don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us. We are here for you. But if we don't have anything else, we'll see you on December 8th for the next meeting. And everybody have a great week and hopefully see you at the CD NLA show as well.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
All right. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Now it's time for tacos.
All right. Where is this?
I mean, it is tacos.